What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Full Court Femmes. No hype, all hoops.
The Johnnies are heading to Indianapolis this week for a Big East matchup that always feels a little tougher than it looks on paper.
St. John's, Butler, Hinkle Fieldhouse. If you know college basketball, you already know this is never an easy out.
All right, Erin, but before we look ahead to Butler, we've got to rewind to Saturday and talk about St. John's Big East battle with Providence.
Ugh, don't make us do it, but I know we have to, because this one told us a lot about where the Johnnies are right now and what still needs sharpening as conference play ramps up.
Coming into the game, we talked about this being a tone setter game. Providence wanted to slow it down, make it physical, and test St. John's discipline in the half court.
And from the opening tip, that script seemed to be pretty clear, Caroline. St. John's set the pace early and shut out the Friars in the first 4 minutes of the game. Zuby Ejiofor was on fire. Your man was hitting 2 threes from the outset, and it appeared the Johnnies had finally figured out how to play their game in the first half and not wait for the locker room Patino pep talk at halftime.
Yep, but it didn't go that way. Providence began chipping away at St. John's lead while the Johnnies went cold amidst the next 15 of their next 20 shots. By halftime, the score was 38-31.
And when they returned to the court, it truly appeared that Zuby was the only one who could play the game of basketball against the Friars. He finished the game with a career high of 33 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. The only other player to come close to Zuby was Bryce Hopkins, who had 9 points and 10 rebounds.
It simply wasn't enough, Erin. And to be honest, Hopkins desperately needed to be more for the Red Storm. With Fannin, Jackson, Sellers, and Darling leading in minutes but not delivering on their shots, Patino turned to Lefty for a run, and he could only deliver 7 points.
It was truly, truly sad. St. John's did do a great job keeping Jason Edwards at bay with defensive pressure. Their strategy worked, and Edwards became a non-entity in the second half. They also minimized the impact of Aaron Wansey under the basket. He was held to 1 block and 2 offensive rebounds, demonstrating that the big men of St. John's knew what they needed to do.
But they forgot one important thing. Who would show up when they locked down the leaders? 2 freshmen shocked the Johnnies and Madison Square Garden. Stephen Vax came out of nowhere and delivered 16 points in the second half. And Jamar Jones recorded his first double-double, 15 points, 10 rebounds.
Look, we can try and find some good in this game, but the reality is this game is a tremendous disappointment. It's horrible, people said. There is not a St. John's fan in Madison Square Garden who believed they would lose this game at the half.
Agreed. But the stats tell us all we need to know. Providence hit 6 for 18 three-point shots, mainly in the second half. And St. John's went 7 for 31. The Friars delivered a 75% free throw percentage, and the Johnnies were at 65%. The key stat from the game is that Providence delivered 21 fast break points against St. John's 5. And the Friars had 38 points in the paint, Erin, versus the Johnnies 20.
It was awful. There's really nothing else we can say about it. All I know is that if I were Zuby and I put up the stats he did, I would be pissed. It has to be more than a one-man show, and the talent is there, but the chemistry is not.
So, Erin, are we even going to review our bold or busted outcome today?
Okay, you had to ask me that, didn't you? You know, we owe it to our listeners, even when we fail.
No fluff, just the facts. Let's dive in.
Alrighty, I'll go for it. Bold prediction number 1, St. John forces Providence into 18-plus turnovers. We thought it was going to be turnover battle time, so we called it 18-plus.
Final tally, Providence had 12 turnovers in the game. Verdict, busted. The pressure wasn't quite enough to reach that threshold.
All right, let's look at bold prediction number 2 and see how we did. Of those turnovers, St. John's would score 25-plus points.
We tied this to the pressure game.
And St. John's scored 13 points off of the turnovers in this one. Verdict, busted. Not enough points off miscues to hit this bold number.
Our bold prediction number 3 was that St. John's players scored 15 or more points, and neither was named Zuby Ejiofor. This was a rotation test.
And you know, looking at the final numbers, we should have said Zuby scored 2 times 15 plus, because that's how the scoring broke down. Zuby Ejiofor, 33 points, with the next highest St. John's scorers being Bryce Hopkins at 9, Ian Jackson at 6, Uzziah Sellers at 6, and Lefty at 7. Only Ejiofor hit double figures. So the verdict, busted again. The team couldn't get it done beyond Ejiofor.
Bold prediction number 4. Providence is held to under 0.95 points per possession. This was about offensive efficiency.
Providence scored 77 points on 78 possessions, approximately 0.99 points per possession.
Verdict? Busted. They just cleared the efficiency edge. Providence stayed above that 0.95 threshold.
Okay, the last one. The fifth one. St. John's bench outscores Providence bench by 15 plus.
We know, Erin, that bench scoring can swing games.
Bench totals. St. John's bench, 14 points. Providence, 20 points. The verdict? Busted. The Friars reserves outscored the Johnnies bench in the second half, and that's what won the game. It was the exact opposite of what we predicted.
Providence controlled enough aspects of the game, points off turnovers, bench scoring, and execution down the stretch to slide this one away from us.
And if we add in our Annie calls the score prediction, we missed them all. Suffice it to say, we had an even worse day than the Johnnies, Caroline.
All right, Erin, so what does this mean going forward?
Well, there are a few things we have to really consider. The first one is time to get to work. No more standing on preseason hype. They haven't lived up to it. And now, the worst part is they need to claw their way out of a hole to even be considered for the tournament. And some are saying even to be in the top 3 as a contender in the Big East.
All right, that's a little depressing. But 2, they need to execute late in the clock, especially against teams like Providence and Butler that thrive in the grind.
And number 3, this was a Big East style loss. We cannot forget how this conference plays. It's physical, it's emotional, and something you absolutely carry into the next game. Or you pivot quickly, God willing they will, and show folks that this was a blip in what we hope will be a fantastic comeback story come March.
Which brings us perfectly to what's next.
Because if Providence tested St. John's toughness,
Butler's about to test their poise. Let's set the scene. Hinkle Fieldhouse is one of those gyms. Tight sightlines, historic feel, fans right on top of you. Butler plays faster and more confidently at home, and visiting teams feel it early.
exactly. This is a mental toughness game for St. John's. You're not just playing Butler, but you're playing the building, the crowd, and the fact that Butler thrives when games get uncomfortable.
Hinkle Fieldhouse has already proven to be a challenging arena for Butler's Big East opponents this year.
That's true. When Providence played Butler on December 13th, the game ended in a Butler win, only after 2 OTs, with a final score of 113 to 110.
Yes, but the most recent matchup against Villanova at Hinkle, the crowd didn't jostle the Wildcats. They handily beat the Bulldogs on Saturday with a final score of 85-67.
It's now time for the Johnnies to enter the Fieldhouse. There are a few important factors that we need to put into place for St. John's to walk away with a win, and it starts with pace control. When the Red Storm are at their best, they're pushing tempo, forcing turnovers, and turning defense into instant offense.
And it's not just about playing fast, Erin. It's about playing smart fast. Butler wants to shrink the floor, limit transition, and make St. John's score late in the shot clock.
So the questions following the loss to Providence are really simple. Can St. John's protect the ball? Can somebody, God willing, other than Zuby, show up on Tuesday night? Can they win the possession battle? And can they stay disciplined defensively without fouling?
Because Butler will make you guard them for a full 30 seconds. Miss one rotation, lose one cutter, and suddenly it's a layup or a kick out 3.
And from the Butler side, this team is at its best when the game is methodical. They're comfortable grinding. They cut hard, screen well off the ball, and they're patient enough to wait for defensive mistakes.
And defensively, Butler doesn't gamble. They sit down, wall up, and force you to hit shots over contests. If St. John's settles for jumpers early in the clock, that's advantage Butler.
This is also where rebounding is going to matter big in this game. Butler is physical on the glass, especially at home. St. John's has to finish possessions. No second chances in that building. So let's talk about swing factors. Number 1 for me, transition defense. If Butler gets back and sets its defense, this becomes a half-court chess match.
Second for me, poise. There will be a Butler run. We know it. There always is at Hinkle. St. John's can't let one missed call or bad stretch snowball.
And third, bench minutes. Who gives you energy without giving up execution? That stretch late in the first half or early second half could decide the tone of this game. All right, it's time. You know the deal. I'm scared to say them, though. They're not soft takes. They're not safe takes. These are bold predictions, and I'm honestly scared to put it out in the universe.
No hedging, no vibes, only analysis. Let's get into it. Bold prediction number one: St. John scores 20 or more points off turnovers.
Oh, God, we're going about this again. Butler wants this game slow, but St. John's forces the issue. We're calling at least 14 Butler turnovers and 20 plus points coming directly off of them.
That's the difference. If St. John's is running after live ball turnovers, Butler's half court defense never gets set, and that's when things tilt red.
Bold prediction number 2, Butler is held to 70 or less points at Hinkle. This is a big one, Caroline. Butler's comfortable at home, but St. John's defensive pressure will win out.
That means contested looks, late clock shots, and zero rhythm from three. If Butler can't get clean catch and shoot opportunities, they struggle to separate.
Bold prediction number 3, St. John's wins the rebounding battle. This is sneaky bold because Butler expects to own the glass at home.
But we're saying St. John's finishes possessions, +5 or better on the boards, and no late game offensive rebound heartbreak.
And if that happens, St. John's controls tempo the entire night.
All right, bold prediction number 4. Butler does not score more than 8 fast break points. Butler wants to grind, but when they do run, it's usually off mistakes. We're predicting elite transition defense from St. John's.
That's going to be no leak outs, no lazy matchups. Butler stays a half-court team all night, and that plays right into St. John's hands.
Bold prediction number 5. The game is within one possession with 4 minutes left, and St. John's closes.
This one's not about stats, Caroline. It's about moment.
The game or one possession either way at 4-point mark. And St. John's makes the tougher plays late. Defensive stop, big bucket, free throws to seal it.
This will be about road poise. It's going to be about Big East basketball. More importantly, it's about climbing back into that conversation.
All right, Erin, now it's time for everyone's favorite crystal ball moment.
You know the segment, no spreadsheets, no hedging, just a number and a take. This is Annie calls the score.
All right, but we're not going to hold Annie accountable for the Providence game. It simply was out of left field, and no one saw.
I agree with you. So Annie predicts that Butler slows the pace early, feeds off the Hinkle energy, and keeps this tight into the second half. But St. John's defensive pressure shows up late. Turnovers turn into points when it matters the most.
As we said earlier, we've got Butler under 70 at home. St. John's controls the glass just enough, gets a couple of runouts off live ball steals, and executes at the line down the stretch.
So final score from Annie, St. John's 82, Butler 70.
That fits everything we just laid out: pressure, poise, and closing time.
Low 80s, road win, statement made. Building back to New York basketball for the Johnnies.
This is a real Big East test. Not flashy, not loud nationally, but meaningful.
So strap in, everybody. This one's going to be physical, deliberate, and earned.
That's our preview of St. John's versus Butler in Indianapolis.
Make sure you've subscribed to Full Court Femmes wherever you get your podcasts, be it on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
No hype, all hoops. At least we pray for more Red Storm points in the hoop this week.